how did you get involved in what you do?
It's a weird thing.
So when did you start your YouTube channel?
So I started it a few years ago, 2018, 2019.
And what was the first video?
I started as sort of like an interview show, nothing about scams. I had a channel before it. So I went to school for chemical engineering and hated it. I was miserable. I was like, I do not want my life to be earning 2% more of, of a bottom line for ExxonMobil or any chemical. I just wasn't interested. I was like, that's not my life. So I always wanted to sort of, have a voice. And so I started a YouTube channel just doing random videos. I hadn't really found my footing. But throughout my entire life, I had kind of had this relationship with like hucksters and fraud where, when I was in high school, my mom got thyroid cancer, very treatable kind of cancer, and she's fine. But at the time I watched her as she's like, gets this diagnosis, gets swept up with all these hucksters who are telling her that the way to treat thyroid cancer is not surgery. You can just treat it naturally. Just don't worry about, hey, don't listen to the doctors. Don't listen to your general practitioner. You can just treat it with like colloidal silver or with just put a bunch of garlic cloves in the pot. I still remember our house like reeked. She would put 60 cloves of garlic in a stew and she would drink it up because she thought that would make her better. Ultimately, my dad convinced her, like, you got to get this surgery. Like, this ain't gonna fly. You have to, ultimately get the surgery, which thankfully she did, and she's fine now. She takes medication to replace the hormones her thyroid would generate. But I saw my mom kind of get swept in this thing that I knew was nonsense, but it's sort of like hard. You kind of have to disprove every single, like there's always a new like health guy telling you that there's some new alternative discovery, whatever. And I was like, this is kind of weird. And I was like, why do they hate doctors so much? And it always seems to like end up with a sales pitch. Like it never was like, hey, let me just give you this free thing. It was like always like there's a catch. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really know what I was looking at the time. Then I go to college and all my friends get an MLMs, multi-level marketing, sort of like just like the like, hey, you're going to get rich. So I was always getting invited to these like get rich seminars and I'd go because it was like my friends like said, hey, we have to get somebody, you want to go? And I was like, sure, I'll go. I was like kind of fascinated. And you'd see these guys, they're like, hey, don't work a 9-to-5 job, like be free like me. And I'm like, you're here on a Sunday at like 5 p.m. How free are you really? Like, you're just kind of grifting here. And so, but you'd see them in nice cars. And so I was like, what am I looking at? And then as I'm doing my YouTube show, I'm like, I get fed a bunch of ads, like get rich quick schemes. Like you've got a bunch of people, flexing in their Lamborghinis telling you, they're like 25 years old telling you, you want to get rich by 25 or 22. I'll show you. I made $1 million. I'm a millionaire by the time I'm 23 years old. Just buy my course. My course is, $2,000. Pay me $2,000. I'll teach you to get rich quick. So I saw all this and my experiences up to that point, it kind of led me to like, I want to say something, but why is nobody saying anything? It just seemed like there was this, these people pitching this stuff and nobody was talking about it. So I made this random video just basically screaming about, all these scammers online. And unlike my previous work, which kind of had resonated, like it had gotten some reactions, but not much. What I noticed is it resonated with people beyond the views, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like I was just like, there was something different about the reaction to it. Like, and victims would reach out to me. They'd be like, hey, I'd been scammed by this guy and I didn't realize what was going on. And you showed me, sort of like how the whole scheme worked. So I decided to start pursuing it step by step. And at first it was like just me discovering like, well, what is this? Well, how does this scheme work? Okay, so I buy this course and then what? What are you saying in the terms of service that means that I can't sue you? You have all these terms of service that basically say none of what I'm saying is true. Like they say they can get you rich in the sales pitch, and then in the terms of service they said results may vary. What's that about? Mm-hmm. I mean, ultimately it's like, and so I realized like, oh, there's this sophisticated way that they're preying on my psychology and they're setting it up with like, I used to be broke like you. Well, that's a strategy. Mm. A lot of these guys were never broke. Right? It's just part of the story you have to tell to be really effective. It's like, I used to be just like you, Joe, but then, I found out that doing Amazon drop shipping is the way to make millions of dollars. And, I used to fail, but by these little tricks, I found out how to be successful. And if you invest with me, I'll save you time. You know, you could do it yourself, Joe. You could do it. But what? It's going to take you 5 years. Get with me, and I'm going to shortcut your success. 2 months. You're going to be making 5 figures a month. 10 months, maybe 6 figures a month. And I've done it for people before. That's the social proof. I've shown people how to do this. You can watch them. These are real people, Joe. You can be just like them. And so I started watching this and I started like seeing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I start covering it, and then I start to get cease and desist letters. They don't like that. So they start to send me, they say, hey, you better shut up or we're going to sue you. And I was like, okay. I'm not going to stop making these videos. I just kept making the videos, and ultimately they never did. But I start doing that, and after I cover get rich quick schemes for a while, I start hearing about these tokens, and they're like, hey, selling courses, like it's always the new grift. You always have to find, because people figure it out. Like they go like, oh, that actually doesn't work. Like, hey, drop shipping is not actually like this incredible business that you thought it was, that you're going to get rich easily. So don't do that. Go do crypto. You got to get into crypto now. And then it became NFTs for a while. But like, so I eventually like pivoted into this crypto direction and learned all about that. But it started just from a curiosity about scammers. And I wanted somebody to say something, because I was just like, why does this make some people tens of millions of dollars and nothing happens? Why are some of these people making hundreds of millions of dollars? People are miserable at the end of it, and nothing happens. And that was the start of my show.
So you start just doing interviews about what? Like you didn't start doing this. You started doing just like a normal interview show?
I was just doing a normal interview show with a few of my buddies. And it just was kind of, I was just trying to find my way. I was just trying to like, even before that, I had done a show where I was like trying to break down these topics. I was like researching addiction, and I was just like trying to, you know, make some digestible piece of media around like addiction, right? Because like I always was interested in communicating complicated ideas in a digestible way. I just felt like, man, there's so much cool science out there. There's so many cool ideas out there. How do we communicate this? So I did that for a while. Then I started like Coffeezilla was like this spin-off channel. And I was like, let me do some interviews. And then it was also my place. I just threw things at the wall. So then that's where I threw one of my I just like ranted about this thing against the wall, and it kind of like stuck. And I just enjoyed it. I was like, man, screw these people, you know, like we're taking advantage of like,
Yeah.
And what was sick about it is they're not taking advantage of rich people, because rich people will sue you.
Yeah.
If you screw them over, rich people will sue you.
Right.
They're taking advantage of like people who they're like at $10,000 or $2,000. That's like all their disposable income.